And just like that, we are off and running on this Wednesday edition of Gulfstream Weekly. Delighted to have you with us, everybody. Our set here in the Sport of Kings at Gulfstream Park. Keisha Courtney, Jason Blewett alongside, and you and I were just talking. Aside from the fact we're pumped up for a new week at Gulfstream, can you believe it's already August?
It's crazy. August 2nd we are today officially, and that means we're just a couple of days away from the first leg of the Florida Sire Stakes on Saturday, August 5th. And that means summer is winding down, which is a really bizarre thought. It's absolutely flown by the past couple months.
Well, they say when you're having fun, time goes pretty fast, and we are having fun here at Gulfstream. The races have been terrific for the most part all summer long. The fans, thank you so much. You've been supporting the product with both fists at the windows, and we do certainly appreciate that. We also, as the summer season heats up and the new month of August is obviously here, we think about Saratoga, we think of the Travers, the Midsummer Derby, and we think of this muddled 3-year-old picture, and that will be very much, Acacia, a topic of conversation as we start the show. We do have a number of items to get to. It should be a fun half hour.
It should be, and you bring up an excellent point that it's just been nearly impossible to pick out a top standout from this 3-year-old year, of course. And it seems like nearly every horse has had their moment of brilliance, and everybody's really gotten their chance in the limelight, but it is kind of difficult to narrow down on one single standout.
And we'll catch up with Ron Nicoletti a bit later in the show. He's going to join us. We'll have a 3-person panel. It's just like an old fireside chat. So sit tight. We've got 2-year-olds coming your way, but again, really no surprise. We're going to start things out with the 3-year-olds and, in fact, backtrack to Sunday about a little Jersey Shore action at Monmouth Park. And again, chaos ruled supreme, as Acacia just mentioned, with Gervin just getting up in a nick of time, outrunning McCracken and Practical Joke in the Haskell Stakes.
And he was the second longest shot on the board at 9-1. Pretty wide early, actually breaking from the outside post. You could see he's the number 7 there. It looked like McCracken was actually going to get it, and Practical Joke in between horses. So I think you have to kind of look at that race as, one, what happened to Irish Warcry, as you think that he, with the hometown New Jersey bred connections and Isabel De Tomaso and Graham Motion, thinking that this was really the goal for him all along after a huge run in the second place in the Belmont. And then you have McCracken kind of making a comeback, if you will. And Gervin just out of nowhere, definitely a lot of bumps along the road for him with a quarter crack before the Kentucky Derby, some troubles with quarantine in New Orleans prior to that. Excellent training job by Joe Sharp.
Yeah, Joe Sharp in the mix was there with his wife, Rosie Napravnik, their little kids, so a real family celebration following Sunday's 9-1 upset in the $1 Million Haskell Invitational. We'll see who goes where, but, I mean, if I have, and I wish I had, one of these top 3-year-olds in the barn, I am basically circling the Travers. I just can't imagine that it won't be an overflow field of 14 for that top prize up there.
It looks like quite a few horses pointing there. I did read potentially McCracken and Gervin having a bit of a rematch in the Travers. Joe Sharp did say he was also considering the Smarty Jones in the Pennsylvania Derby, but I would have to imagine that Travers would be number 1.
Who would you want out of the Haskell quickly? If you had to pick one horse, for me, I think it's McCracken.
I actually totally agree with you, and it's he's kind of had his own ups and downs as well, and you do kind of wonder about the legitimacy of him, but I think all in all of that field, he's been one of the more consistent runners.
All right, speaking of consistency, we thought we basically had it going in to Saturday's Jim Dandy Stakes. No matter how you felt about the Kentucky Derby and Florida Derby winner, Always Dreaming, I think you also had that solid consistency and at times fairly brilliant young career of Cloud Computing. So this was billed, of course, as the big rematch between the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness winner. The first time ever you had the Derby and Preakness winner meet in the Jim Dandy. And in the end, whether it was a laboring track or this sometimes quirky 9-furlong distance, Always Dreaming inside in the blue, Cloud Computing to his outside in the red and white, and this race completely, the Jim Dandy, fell apart throughout the last furlong.
It did, and at this point, it looked like pretty much everybody had a shot, and then all of a sudden, Good Samaritan on the outside left everybody else battling for second. It was really amazing. Actually, Good Samaritan, for trainer Bill Mott, making his dirt debut in the Jim Dandy. He'd been incredibly impressive on turf. You can say maybe it was the Bill Mott birthday wish. He always seems to win on his birthday. Happy 60th 64th birthday to Bill Mott. Good Samaritan did get the dirt win there. Apparently, Elliott Walden from Windstar Farm, always really wanting to try this horse on the dirt, but he was incredibly impressive, and I think that battle, that pace battle, really did help him out quite a bit in there.
Now, as far as his effort, a 100 buyer, by the way, for his victory in the Jim Dandy, I'm wondering, and maybe it's a crazy idea or sentiment, he might be favored in the Travers off that big effort because he had been a fairly top-class turf horse right behind Oscar Performance in a number of races. And, again, perhaps a coming-out party. We saw it in full effect Saturday up at the Old Spa with Good Samaritan for Bill Mott Windstar as a colt by Harlan's Holiday. Do you want, potentially, if always dreaming, and I spoke to Anthony Bonomo Jr. last night, we were texting, and it sounds like they're still pointing to the Travers. They think he needed that race in the Jim Dandy. But how do you feel about the Derby and the Preakness winner coming out of that, what was supposed to be a nice prep?
Well, it's actually really interesting when you look at that, and we kind of talked about this beforehand, too. When you go into the Jim Dandy, so many trainers saying it's really tough because you have that layoff since the Triple Crown. You want to prep them for the Jim Dandy, but you also want something in the tank for the Travers. And it looked like both of them, maybe they were a little bit more conservative, or maybe they were just too focused on each other. I'm not quite sure what it was. Chad Brown saying afterwards he thought cloud computing just didn't really fire like he had hoped. Maybe it was the track, maybe it was the pace tool. John Velasquez on Always Dreaming saying he was proud about how he came back a bit along the rail. There was a little bit more tenacity from him, so I would have to imagine he would improve going forward. But as far as Good Samaritan goes, he's perhaps got the least amount of excuses right now going into the Travers.
No, it's a very good point. Maybe that's one of the reasons in my mind, thinking about who might be in the Midsummer Derby, I said, wouldn't shock me if he was actually favored. Not a heavy favorite, of course, but you would imagine there'll be a no vacancy sign on the starting gate, just like all those hotels and motels up there in upstate New York for the Midsummer Derby. We'll come home here to Gulfstream Park, and another upset. Look, Saturday, by the way, a terrific day. It was permanently disabled Jockey's Fun Day across the United States, and of course we had our dunk tank and quite a bit of fun, raised a few bucks here at Gulfstream Park, which was terrific. And off that few bucks notion, what can you say about Money or Love? She, for some reason, just knows how to get it done at big prices in these $50,000, $75,000 overnight stakes.
And she was running against some very classy horses in here. Out in the front, you had Colt Classic, who was the number 4 for Team Valor, and Ralph Nix, granted off of a layoff, but this is a big, sizable mare. She got to the lead. You had Sweet Khaleesi, the 2 for the Red Hot Stanley Gold, closing on the outside. And this was a pickup mount for Jairo Hernandez on Money or Love. She was 20-1 and just managed to get the job done, and she looked great. But you did kind of cross her off after not really running at all in the Grade 2 Princess Rooney or on the turf. And she got another win after winning the Musical Romance a few starts back.
All right, we'll see. I would imagine Sweet Khaleesi is only going to improve as she lost a tough one there on the wire after that bold bid, and clearly, and a good point by you, Colt Classic might be the one you really want coming out of the Added Elegance, as you would expect her to move forward big time, second off that lengthy layoff. Maybe as far as the raw talent department, as we go back to the Old Spa for Saturday's Amsterdam Stakes, in the raw talent department, maybe this horse by Stay Thirsty and Cold Front is the most talented. I like this horse a lot, as do a lot of people. I mean, geez, cost over $500,000 as a 2-year-old in training, and he's now 3 for 3 after another solid workmanlike victory, but he is talented, this horse.
Very talented, and he just kind of repelled every potential bid. Mo Cash, actually a Florida horse we're used to seeing down here for Ron Spatz. He was the 3 that day, kind of pressed him a little bit early. That was actually the 4th win on the day for Todd Pletcher and John Velasquez, so good win for them. 3rd victory in a row for Cold Front. Definitely a lot of talent there.
Sounds like the race formerly known as the King's Bishop, the H. Allen Jerkins on that Travers undercard towards the end of the month will be the logical spot to see Cold Front next, as wherever he winds up, he'll try to make it a perfect 4 for 4. Bill Mott had a birthday on Saturday. Trainer John Sadler had his 61st birthday Sunday afternoon, where the turf meets the surf, and it all worked out. It was a narrow win, but still, what can you say about stellar win class, class, and class. And her and Valdori put on a good show down to the wire in Sunday's Grade 1 Clement Hirsch.
This was definitely a good show. And reading comments from jockey Victor Espinosa afterwards, he said he took the initiative to get Stellar Wind involved a bit earlier, not to let Valdori get away from them, which I think really made all the difference. And this is where her class just shows so huge right here as she gets up just on the outside in the wire. The Clement Hirsch was where she famously upset Beholder, so this was her second win in a row in that race.
Yeah, she's just terrific. You've got Songbird in the mix. Unfortunately, paid-up subscriber came out of her near 33-length victory in Sunday's three-horse Shuvie. She still won by over 30 lengths, but evidently she came out with a slight hairline fracture in one of her ankles. Kind of bummed losing her out of that older filly and mare division, which all of a sudden is pretty good having Songbird and that duo out from the Clement Hirsch.
Very good. And I know there are some questions about Songbird, so those will really have to be proved throughout this next year. I think that she's been incredibly consistent. There's some really tough fillies and mares there, but of course that's with the Connections paid-up subscriber. They said she'll be out through the rest of the year. We'll see about next year.
All right, and we'll also see you coming back for our second segment on Gulfstream Weekly. It is all things Florida Sire Stakes, and with that in mind, one of the greats ever, Holy Bull, will set it to break, backtracking to the 1993 In Reality with the Bull.
And Holy Bull and Mike Smith lead by 2. Hammer Miller second. Rustic Light on the outside is third. You see at the rail fourth. The field comes toward the ace pole. Mike Smith sets Holy Bull down for the drive, and he draws off the lead by 4. Rustic Light on the outside is second. Hammer Mill tires as Gulfstream comes on. The field comes past the 16th pole, and Holy Bull is for real. He's going to take the In Reality division easily. Rustic Light is second with Forward to lead coming on for the show.
Hey, South Florida, it's time to get social at sunset. This summer at Gulfstream Park, as the sun goes down, the scene heats up. Join us each week for Twilight Racing Fridays, a fusion of horse racing, food and drink specials, and live performances by local bands. Enter drawings and play horse racing bingo, your chance to win incredible prizes. Live racing begins at 2:15. Admission and parking are free. Visit GulfstreamPark.com for more details. Gulfstream Park, Twilight Racing Friday. Get social at sunset.
A passion for horses and a commitment to breed champions is the foundation of Hardacre Farm. Founded in 1999 by Amy Tarrant, owner, breeder, and trainer, Hardacre Farm, now based in Ocala, continues its tradition of success. From the Breeders' Cup to Gulfstream Park, Hardacre Farm, from the breeding shed to the racetrack, in pursuit of producing the best.
Welcome back to this Wednesday edition of Gulfstream Weekly. It is Acacia and Jason joining you once again from our Sport of Kings studios. And a lot going on here at Gulfstream Park as we kick off Florida Sire Stakes Week. I do like, though, and I think we're going to have a weekly title here, Performance of the Week. Yeah. And backtracking to Saturday's card, Midwest and Armando de la Cerda have got a good one.
They do, and this is talking about Croy, and this was an actually kind of unbelievable race when you look at how the pace scenario sets up, and we're just going to pick it up when he's out in the front already, but this was his first time with the blinkers on. He showed way much speed than he had prior, and he actually went with GQ cover-up and betting on red, so he had a kind of a 3 horses way ahead of the rest of the field, and he just kept going, Jason. He didn't stop. It was actually amazing the way that he performed.
Terrific race, and I know Armando de la Cerda, we had walked up with him just on sheer coincidence as he was leading Croy up on the horse path. He had said the blinkers. He had worked the horse in blinkers recently and saw a change. And again, that all came to fruition on the turf course here Saturday with that big 89 Beyer victory. You would imagine the Bears' Den here in late September for 3-year-olds for 100K on the turf will be the spot for Croy. He looks like a nice one by the Factor. Let's move on to the 2-year-old action here at Gulfstream Park, beginning, or at least going back to last Friday afternoon when Mr. Fix-It came in off the farm. He had been training at Nelson Jones Farms and Training Center. Man, was he good.
He was at 35-1, and he was intent on the lead. This was in State Bred Maiden Special 80. He debuted with the blinkers on. He's a 2-year-old by Two-Step Salsa, and he just went way ahead of the rest of the field. A little bit of greenness in the stretch, but he managed to hold on, and when he switched leads, he did kind of re-break a little bit and keep pulling away. And the heavy bet favorite with Tyler Gaffleone in second just couldn't catch him.
Yeah, very sharp effort by this 2-year-old by Two-Step Salsa. 61 buyer for that victory, going the 5.5 furlongs there in Friday's 4th race. On Sunday, this turned out to be a crazy race, and a race probably worth watching from start to finish a few different times. But we'll give you the stretch run of Sunshine Treasure, who won his debut for trainer Joe Orsino and the Generazios. Had that riderless horse, everybody was okay, but some poise here and some seasoning, I would say, on display from this first-time starter.
Absolutely, and he's the number 1 that day, and it was interesting because when he did break, or she, excuse me, she went out to the front, then got very rank. Tyler Gaffleon took a hold of her, took her back a little bit, and then she came from off of the pace and closed outside. So it was a very weirdly run race in terms of dynamics. Did manage to get the win, and Jason, how good has Treasure Beach been as a sire? You have to imagine his $10,000 stud fee is going to go up, especially the way his 2-year-olds have done.
It's incredible. He's had 5 individual winners from 14 2-year-olds to hit the track already, something that I don't think anybody would have ever expected. And I guess the appeal of breeding to him before this year would have been he was by Galileo and had a lot of quality. I think he's a Coolmore homebred who has a lot of the Coolmore European sort of classic bloodlines on the female side. But he's been a real neat surprise, and it is nice to see Joe Orsino having a number of homebreds for the Generazios.
Absolutely, and this was a nice one. They had actually scratched out of a 5-furlong turf maiden claiming race the week prior, put her in going 2 turns on the turf and special weight, and that move did not disappoint.
Now, I'm amazed, and you've been around the racetrack for a long time as well, at how many people help to make the show go on each and every day. And with that said, with all these different jobs and professions and teams of people that create to this great show, we're reminded, especially in the warm summer months here in South Florida, that a lot of those teams and a lot of those people have to spend their days outside.
Yes, they do. The horses, the jockeys, the grooms, the trainers, everybody makes it all move like a well-oiled machine, not without individuality in there.
And as we come off of July here in Hallandale Beach, in which the average temperature was 91 degrees, and that doesn't include the heat index, we're reminded about the jockeys and what they have to go through to ride sometimes 8, 9, 10 races a day. We thought it'd be cool to catch up with young rider C.J. McMahon in from Louisiana to talk about the warm weather here in South Florida and all things Gulfstream Park. Let's catch up with C.J. right now. So we're in the jocks room catching up with C.J. McMahon. How do you like Florida, by the way?
I'm loving Florida, loving the hospitality.
Well, good. We like having you here. And I know, I mean, you grew up in Louisiana, rode in Texas, won a lot of races out in the West, but it's pretty hot these days here in South Florida. What goes into your regimen and, say, your average jockey's regimen this time of the year in South Florida riding, as far as staying hydrated and just taking care of yourself out there when it's really hot?
A lot of H2O and a lot of rest. I mean, just keep, and potassium, just keeping the muscles, you know, loose and where they're not cramping, you know, and between the way the weight fluctuates, you know, up and down, you just kind of got to keep it in the middle and maintain. It all depends on the person.
Now, as far as you're wearing your silks and then you got your flak jacket to protect you underneath that, what do you wear under the flak jacket?
Right now, I like the Decente shirts. They're lycra material, very light in weight, and when you sweat, I mean, it whips it away. And usually, if not this, I wear a mesh material that, I mean, when you sweat, it comes off, and it really dries it up really quick, and for the most part, you stay hydrated.
We know you're young. We know you love riding. You're following your dream. Does it get tiresome on some of these long days when it's, say, with the heat index around 100 degrees or so outside, when we have, say, 10, 11, 12 races? I mean, do you get relief when you come back into the jocks room with the air conditioning?
Most definitely, but my relief is getting back out there to go ride another one. You know, the more the merrier. My thing is, I'd hate to come ride one, then wait 3 or 4 races, then ride another one. You know, then that's when it kind of gets a little tiresome. Not tiresome, boring, you know, because you want to get out there while races are going on. But the more the merrier. It doesn't really bother me. Coming from Louisiana, where it's hot and the humidity is a lot different. You know, it's over here you have the breeze coming from the ocean, where back home is just everything's still, nothing's really moving. but I love both places very much.
I guess it's always cool in the winner's circle.
Oh, most definitely. That's the best place to be.
Well, it's good having you here. Keep it up. And are you looking to stay in Florida after the summer meet ends?
Yes, sir. If business keeps picking up and progressing as it is, I'd love to make Florida my home.
And it's nice having C.J. McMahon with us. Very likable, well-spoken young man from Lafayette, Louisiana, represented by jockey agent Walter Blum.
And yes, he is very, very likable. Nice having him here as well. Actually got to talk to him a little bit last week because he was very excited to dunk Ron Nicoletti in the tank, which was great. But really fascinating to hear what he had to say about how the weight fluctuates and the daily preparation that each jockey has to go through. So always good to remind everyone what these jockeys do on a daily basis just to prepare.
And he said coconut water is also his secret. Forgot to mention that on camera, but coconut water keeps C.J. McMahon hydrated here at Gulfstream Park. One more timeout coming your way, and again, to stick with our theme of the Florida Sire Stakes, we'll go back to 2014, the In Reality with a horse by the name of Sing Praises from Florida Connections, who know how to hit the winner's circle.
He's 4 wide, but moving closer. Sing Praises behind the speed. Then it's a gap of 3 lengths to Saraguaro, who starts to find his best stride. Honor Earned runs with him. Southern Barbecue calls it an afternoon, and there's less than a quarter of a mile to go in the In Reality. Up on the outside, 225A issues the challenge, but here's Sing Praises between them, and Sing Praises bullishly up between down to take the lead. Royal Squeeze on the inside, 225A on the outside. It's still Sing Praises in front. Royal Squeeze is second. Toward the outside, 225A. Honor Earned is next. Sing Praises almost there. Here's Royal Squeeze taking another run on the outside. It's going to be close. It's too close to call.
Saturday, August 5th, summer's hottest series returns to Gulfstream Park. It's the Florida Sire Stakes and Summer Soiree. Cheer on Florida's thoroughbred stars of tomorrow in this thrilling afternoon of live racing action. First race is 12:45 p.m. and admission and parking are free. Plus, savor an array of international and domestic pairings at the wildly popular wine and cheese tasting. Don't miss out. Get your tickets today. Visit GulfstreamPark.com for details. The Florida Sire Stakes and Summer Soiree series. Welcome to your playground, Gulfstream Park.
At ExpressBet, we celebrate the champions that make horse racing great. That's why we provide more ways to bet from more places than ever. We've built an entire family of brands to give players more of the rewards they deserve, give bettors the information they need to win, and provide a community for horse bettors. Because the best way to support the champions of horse racing is to champion horse racing. ExpressBet. We are racing.
Ready to roll here on Gulfstream Weekly. And the gang's all here. Ron Nicoletti joining us here on our Sport of Kings set. And it's always good to have Ron Nicoletti in the house.
Thank you for inviting me to your living room. It's going to be a lot of fun today. And out handicapping Thursdays and Fridays card and getting ready for Saturday. So us handicappers are always busy.
13 races on Saturday. Don't forget, gang. And we'll start a little earlier than usual. What time's post time?
12:10.
12:10. So mark that down. A little after 12:10 is how we do things. We're on beach time here at Gulfstream Park. Now, as far as what's happening on Saturday with the Sire Stakes, Dunk is one of a couple of Arundel homebreds by Brethren. He's running in the Dr. Fager, and boy, oh boy, he really put things together last time out, which we're going to show you.
He really did. This was his third career start, and just unbelievable performance from him. We've now seen 3 winners for Sire, Brethren, and I mentioned this earlier in the show, Stanley Gold and Arundel Farm, just been unbelievable with winners, especially 2-year-olds. They've always thought highly of this one, though.
And, you know, when Brethren started, it's their first couple of races, their progeny, didn't really see much. We said, what's going to happen here? Then Stanley, of course, unveils his magic, and you see Brethren just win by almost 9 lengths there. So these horses needed a start. They've come back and run exceptionally well after a race or two.
And I think it's Stanley Gold with a record 18 combined Florida Sire Stakes and Sailing Stakes victories, and a look to add, obviously, with Duncan. He's also got a pretty good one by Brethren in Awesome Mass, who is likely going to be a big favorite in the Desert Vixen, which is also on Saturday's card. And in a way, they're very similar. They both ran out of their skin. They're both by brethren. They're both Arundel horses in the white and green, and they both have a lot of talent.
A lot of talent and awesome mass. I believe this was the performance that got the 81 Buyer speed figure, and just she was incredibly impressive. This was her first start with Lasix. Again, had a couple of races for some seasoning before that. Stanley Gold had been saying all along he has horses that need a little bit more distance and need some patience, and especially with the 2-year-olds, patience is the key.
All right, no doubt. We'll see them on Saturday, and looking forward to seeing what they can do as an encore.
Looks off those performances, maybe he gets 19 and 20.
No kidding. He's got to like where he is, that's for sure. I think he's got 5 2-year-old winners over the last 30 days here at Gulfstream Park exclusively, and there's a long way to go as far as the three-race series for both the boys and the girls. But why don't we give you a little rundown as far as the horses on the colt side and the filly side of things who were good enough to sweep the entire Florida Sire Stakes. And we don't have to go back very far, gang. 3 rules just last summer.
And Ron and I here, 3 rules last summer was just unbelievable to be able to follow him and see how he kind of became a Florida superstar, and then to see him on the national stage, even trying to get onto the Kentucky Derby Trail, and then really proving himself as a sprinter after that, going a little bit less distance, though. He really has proved himself. Great ride for Jose Pinchin last summer, and it's pretty cool to see that when a horse can sweep all 3.
Well, I'm dating myself a little bit, but I remember Smile doing it. So 1984, and you can see the list there. Just very impressive horses, you know, and the fillies too. 4 fillies have gone on to sweep the 3 divisions of the Florida Sire Stakes.
And Awesome Feather, I mean, really became
favorites.
a household name. She was very good and obviously would cap that unbeaten 2-year-old season with a win in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies and an Eclipse Award. Now, Ronnie was burning the midnight oil. He said he's got Thursday, Friday's card done for all of you. His selections, GulfstreamPark.com, and you got a horse we should look at in Thursday's 10th race.
Well, Acacia will tell you I'm a big fan of key races, and there's one on Thursday afternoon, and here you see it. Hey, look at this. Ron's Monster Key Race, Sierra Love. I want to go back and show you the performance of this race. Now, what this horse, Sierra Love, is doing in this particular race when it comes up is going to turn back to 5 furlongs. This one is dueling through the stretch. She is the number 7 horse that day and just cruises through the stretch, fighting all along, and ends up in that race, finishing 5th, beaten 1.5 lengths. But here's the story. You saw the slate of Monster Key Race. Let's run through this. Sierra Love is turning back, right? Conquest Sorcerer wins again. Cape Fear defeated $35,000 maidens in her next start. 4th place finisher Bleeding Heart defeated 25,000 maidens on July 27th. The 6th place finisher 5 Cents Please defeated 12,500 maidens on July 16th. And unbelievably, the 7th place finisher in the race, that 7.5 furlong race, was Charming Host, that defeated $10,000 on maidens on July 9th. So unbelievable that you see that happen. You don't hear. So this is the Monster Key Race. You saw the slate up there. And, of course, I like handicapping-wise, even though it's a key race, to turn back to 5 furlongs from that 7.5.
Yeah, when you have 5 next out winners, I don't think you can discredit that race at all.
That's been one of the greatest races of my lifetime. That's why we pulled that chart. And again, thanks to the boys up in the control room for formatting that. But 1-1-1-1-1, italics all over the place. Let's see if Sierra Love can make it 6 next out winners from that race on June 30th. Now, Friday's featured 5th. Very good race. Bitacora. Probably going to be a lukewarm favorite, maybe 2-1, 5-2-ish. Very solid crew of 3 and up fillies and mares, but she's a good one. She really is.
She's a good one. Pretty nice card on Friday, a 9-race card. Of course, we got Twilight Friday. It'll kick off at 2:15. And I want to go back and show you, this is going to be Friday's 5th race. We're talking about the 3 Bitacora. We're going to pick it up from the top of the stretch to the wire. This is the Ginger Punch. It's 2 starts back for her. Closes on really slow fractions in this race to finish 2nd, as I mentioned, in this $100,000 Ginger Punch. You could see her on the outside. I mean, the speed held on because they went slow early, and I just thought this was a top-notch performance. She comes back. She runs again in a stake in the Martha Washington on 4th of July. So I just think this horse is the class of the field. And more importantly, if you look to the outside of this field, lots of speed in the field.
You like Bitacora, too?
I do. I do like her as well. I thought that race behind Something Else that we just looked at was pretty impressive. impressive. Something else has always, I think, been a really respectable horse. Nice win for the Espura family on that day in the Ginger Punch. But Bidacora's always been one I've liked. I think she won a couple times on the slop at the start of her career, but has really proved herself on the turf as well.
No, she's near the top of the list in my short time here in South Florida with you as far as horses who have just improved seemingly eons. Best of luck to her on Friday afternoon. And, of course, it's never too early to start talking about the 2018 Pegasus World Championships right here at Gulfstream Park. And we have a live handicapping contest to match the Rich Pegasus.
And you can see that estimated pool over $500,000. Now check this out if you're interested in the Breeders' Cup betting challenge in the NHC. Live money buy-in $12,000, and if you're on site, no entry fee.
No entry fee if you're on site, and that $12,000 live money means that's your money to bet and win or lose.
Yep.
We hope you win it, and you got a chance to take down $500,000.
And you're putting Acacia and myself up, right?
Yeah, I'm paying for both you guys
right.
to go in.
Perfect.
Yeah,
I love it.
good.
Well, he gets this Monster Key race angle that we're gonna be rolling in it.
And with Acacia and I combined will be taking that $24,000 check from Ron after the show goes off the air in a few short moments. And before we say goodbye, it is a little bittersweet. Let's give you a little reminder. Again, we're back at it with a 4-day racing week, kicking off the month of August and the Florida Sire Stakes on Saturday with Thursday's program. And guys, Rainbow Six, as far as having a jackpot winner, became pretty popular last week, but we're starting to build that carryover again.
Yep, 10 races on Thursday. That'll start in the 5th race, $20,000. And Ron, you always tell me when they hit the jackpot for a big pool, so often they come back and get it the next day.
And it came to fruition the other day. They hit it Yacht Monster. They hit it the next day. So it looks like it'll start to build again. And I'm amazed how fast it builds. It just builds and builds. And once we get around that over $100,000, everybody's smile gets a little bigger, and you start handicapping a little harder.
Absolutely, and we thank you all for supporting us here at Gulfstream Park, especially during the summer months. This is, I think, a meet that continues to trend upward in the quality department, and we have you, the guys and gals, and the great fans of Gulfstream to thank. So without further ado, I think we'll say goodbye. Again, very much bittersweet, but for Ron, Acacia, and myself, thank you for joining us here on Gulfstream Weekly, and we'll see you next time right here from our Sport of Kings studio.